I'm here with Cyber City Media to talk to one of the cosplay judges and streamers here at DreamHack Dallas. So hello and welcome to Ayriath, or Desiree. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
All right. So as we were talking a little bit before, we went live with the interview and everything, Ayriath was telling me a little bit about her experience with DreamHack. And so I want to start there. Just dive right in to talk about DreamHack.
Oh my goodness. So my first time attending DreamHack was actually a year ago. And I had a bunch of friends that were like, oh, we want to do the BYOC stuff. It's super interesting and super cool. And we're building these really cool rigs for it. And I was kind of like, gaming conventions are kind of like my thing. I really enjoy like gaming conventions in general. So maybe I would really enjoy DreamHack. Ended up going, saw it floating around online that there were signups for the stream studio. And I was like, well, I'm a streamer, so streaming from a convention would be kind of cool. So not really expecting much. I just kind of tossed in my my application and said, oh yeah, sure, this will be fine. I'm not really expecting anything back. They were like, oh, we reviewed your content. We really liked you and we want you to stream from DreamHack. And I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of like was my first like, oh wow, they like me. That's kind of crazy. And ended up going to the convention. Absolutely loved it. Spent probably every waking moment that the expo hall was open or the convention in general was open out doing stuff. And literally crowned it as like one of my favorite conventions I had been to all year or that I had been to just in general. And swore like I'm gonna go to every like Dallas or well Austin at the time, but every like now Dallas DreamHack that they have, like I need to attend. It's in my home state and it's so much fun and I enjoy it so much. So like definitely a great con for me.
And then a year later, gone from applying to the stream studio, no idea what was going to happen, and now you're here as an invited cosplay guest.
Yes, that's also super exciting. So this is actually my first year to start kind of like sending out feelers for like being cosplay guests and judges at conventions, because I finally started feeling like I've really gotten to a point in my crafting and creative career where I feel like I can start having an opinion on other people's work. Like I can start judging it from like a judge's standpoint. And it took me a long time to get to that like part of my life, and it took a lot of convincing from other people like, no, your stuff is good enough, we promise. It wasn't until like I had a couple people like that I know personally that work at other Texas conventions that were like, we've seen your stuff up close, we know it's good, like come guest at our convention. And like DreamHack was kind of like a dream for me, honestly. Get it?
Yeah,
it's in the name.
Appropriate. Well done.
Thanks. It was kind of a dream for me because it was like one of my favorite cons all year, and like to get invited as a cosplay guest and a judge was like super exciting. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's like, senpai noticed me. This is amazing.
Okay, so it's first of all very, very heartwarming because I also love DreamHack, so I'm with you there. But I want to dive into your story a little more here. So you said it's been a long journey to get to this point of confidence to be a cosplay judge and to literally judge other people's, their work. What got you started? What began the journey?
Well, there was actually a cosplay guest here. Are we allowed to talk about the guest judge? Is she
currently? Yeah, no, that's
okay.
Yeah.
The guest judge here is Atelier Heidi, and
no, that's not happening.
Oh, is it?
No, that was a change of plans. Yeah.
Okay, I did not know. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's a cosplayer, Atelier Heidi, who's incredible.
She is incredible, and she was local to the Texas Con for a long time, and I actually met her at a couple local conventions in Texas. And I remember she was one of the ones I really, really looked up to. And she was wearing a plug suit from Evangelion. And it's always been my dream to make a plug suit. And there's like one specific one I want to make so bad, but it's like plug suits are intense. They're a lot of work and they require a lot of like technical skill. And I told her like, hey, one day I would love to make a plug suit. So like seeing you wear one is kind of like reminding me like, hey, this is my dream. And she turned to me and she was like, hey, keep working. you'll get there, and I have no doubt that one day you're going to make something of your own that you're going to be super proud of, and you're going to get to that point in your life. And this was like probably my first or second year cosplaying that she said this to me, and I still was like getting used to like making my own stuff, like what is a pattern, like what is basic sewing skills. And I'm completely self-taught. I've never taken a fashion course. I've used a lot of YouTube and like other people's advice. So she kind of like, she especially, her words and a couple other people I really look up to in the community really helped push me to continue my craft and keep improving and be the best I could. And now I feel like I'm finally at a point where like 99% of my cosplay plans I could feasibly make. Like I could make those now. Like that's super exciting. There's not a lot of me going like, oh, I don't have the skill to make that yet.
So when's the plug suit?
Probably next year, honestly. I'm super excited.
No, that's really awesome to see. So you started out with sewing, then that was kind of your first foray into the cosplay world. What technique did you pick up after sewing?
After sewing, I did a lot of sewing, and then I think the next thing I picked up was 3D modeling and printing. I started learning. I have a friend in College Station who lets me borrow his 3D printer. I'm super generous of him. And he also taught me how to 3D model. And so a lot of my pieces that have been 3D printed, I think maybe sans like 2 props I've made have all been original 3D modeled pieces that like either he's modeled with me in like my beginning time or like I have modeled myself. And like that was a big one for me. And then I started trying to like work with thermoplastics, but the more I worked with thermoplastics, the more I realized I didn't really care for them. So I ended up using foam as a medium more often than not and really like using foam.
That's definitely been a echoing chain in the cosplay community.
Yeah, like it's just, especially when like thermoplastics are so expensive and like they're fine to use, and I'll use them. Like I always keep like a roll of Worbla like on hand anyways, like just in case I need to make like a complex 3D shape, because they're also really good for like pressing into molds and stuff. Like I try to use those when I can, but majority of the time if I'm like making armor, it's gonna be made out of foam.
That's definitely, we've seen plenty of that. Okay, so moving away from the technical a little bit, there's a lot of reasons people cosplay. And so one of them is, I need that plug suit. I have to get there. But I also want to talk about, you go to these conventions, you know, you dress up, and what's the best part about it? Like what is fun for you? Like what makes you keep doing it?
I think one of my favorite things is when I either see someone else wearing a cosplay that I really enjoy, or when someone sees me wearing a cosplay they really enjoy, and you guys kind of like lock eyes across the convention hall and like have to sprint to each other like, oh my god, your costume is super cool and I love it, and you're like cosplaying my favorite character, and that's like the best, and it's amazing, especially if it's like obscure and people don't expect to see a cosplay of it. That's even more magical. Like people get like really hyped about seeing their favorite characters cosplayed, like, and this comes from like other cosplayers and people who like don't cosplay at all. Like they think it's like the coolest thing to see something they really love like interacted with in that kind of way. And going to conventions and getting that vibe from people, how excited people get over cosplay, is like one of my favorite things. But like other than that, I know that a lot of people really enjoy cosplay, and part of the reason I got into it was because there was a convention I went to that I've been attending cons longer than I've been cosplaying. And there was a convention I went to, and there was a huge group cosplaying from one of my favorite shows. And it was Gurren Lagann, which is an anime. And absolutely loved it, one of my top shows at the time. And they had all the characters except for one, which was my favorite character. They were missing her. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into this cosplay thing. I'm going to make a costume for this character that they're missing, and I'm going to see if I can't try to find them next year. So I make the costume. It takes me about 2 months, not very long. I was like, making a lot less money at the time, and like it took me a lot longer to put stuff together, and also it was my first major sewing project, and I decided it would be smart to work with stretch fabrics for some reason as my first sewing project. That was bad. Came out fine though. Got a little bit of help from a seamstress friend of mine, and it looked amazing. And I posted it online like, hey guys, this outfit's ready and I'm gonna take it to another upcoming con. And so if there are any Gurren Lagann cosplayers, like you wanna meet up and like hang out and get photos or something. And one of the girls from that group I saw at that con messaged me like, oh, hey, our group, we do a huge Gurren Lagann group and we're missing this one character. Will you come cosplay with us? And I was like, oh my God, dream come true. Like
Perfect.
The very group I went out to impress is asking me to join their group. Like this is the best. I was super excited. And that's kind of like my first, and that's what I tell people, like when you get into cosplay, like your early memories and like what shapes you as a cosplayer is super, super important. So I'm like the more positive and like reinforcing good behavior and like what cosplay should be about is like super important, because those people being super welcoming of me in cosplay and like inviting me to come cosplay with them and like really helped shape me as like what I view the community as and what I view cosplay as. And so like when it comes to like new cosplayers, I'm like, yeah, like those early memories are going to shape how you feel about cosplay and determine if you keep doing it or not. It's super important.
So what should cosplay be about?
Honestly, and this is gonna sound super cheesy, it really should be about having fun. If you are taking part in a hobby that you are not enjoying, like, why are you doing it?
Yeah,
Like
why'd you pick the
legitimately,
hobby?
like, and I see like a lot of people get burnout, and I'm like, don't keep forcing yourself to make costumes or to like cosplay if you're not having fun. Like, legitimately, it should be about it's a hobby just like anything else, and you shouldn't do it if you're not enjoying yourself or you're not enjoying like being around people who do it or what have you. Like, you should be doing it because you sincerely enjoy doing it. And that's why, like, even after these, oh God, how long have I been cosplaying? Like 7, 8 years? 8 years, I think. Is this my 8th year?
It goes by quicker than you expect.
It does. After 8 years of cosplaying, like I still find so much enjoyment in the hobby, and like sometimes even like planning a new costume gets me super riled up, which is another reason I love conventions. Like you're probably gonna see me tomorrow, like, or after this convention on Twitter, like after I've done the cosplay contest and everything with everyone, like I saw so many cool costumes over the weekend. I'm so amped to make a new costume, even though I just finished one. Like I'm super excited, and it's kind of that which keeps me going.
So there's been a lot of chatter on social media lately, especially with some of the cons going on this weekend. I have seen a ton of cosplayers say, do not con crunch. There will always be another one. Now, people are much better at giving advice than they are at taking it.
Oh, yes.
So my question for you is, what's the con crunch look like these days?
Quite a while back, I used to always con crunch. Like I was always like, I have to make a new con or a new cosplay for every convention. And I eventually moved away from that, like, because I realized that like it is really inherently bad for you, because we're talking like pulling like 14 to 16 hour work days, like 7 days a week leading up until the con. Some people wait until like literally a week and a half before the convention comes up to like start their costume. I'm like, oh no. So like I don't have a lot of room to talk because I did con crunch for DreamHack. I did, but I started my costume a month and a half early, and I got most of the complicated stuff out of the way first and left all the easy stuff for like the very end, except for like 1 or 2 pieces. And the only reason I even did that was like, well, I don't really have like any like, I guess like worthy costumes of DreamHack, because like like I haven't made a new costume in a while, so like all my old stuff like doesn't really reflect what my skills are now. So I'm like, I'm gonna make something that like shows what I can do and take it to DreamHack, because what better place to showcase it? So I did con crunch, but I would say I con crunch safely.
All right,
So, like,
responsible con crunching.
Yeah, so I didn't wait till like a week and a half before the con. I did it like a month and a half beforehand, and I got all the complicated stuff out of the way. I did pull some like 10 to 12 hour work days, but I was talking like I would wake up at like 8 in the morning and be done by like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then like that's still like plenty of time for me to like play around before I go to bed,
And
like play
eat
video
and,
games
yeah,
and eat
drink
and do
water,
stuff. Yeah,
stay hydrated.
the important stuff.
Yeah, the necessaries. Have you ever had a cosplay that you couldn't finish then? Like, have you ever had to shove it in the corner, tell it was bad, and then you come back to it like 6 months later?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you get over that hump? A lot of people struggle with this. Even outside of cosplay, even creative people, you know, they have an idea and they just can't seem to execute it. So
Yeah.
how do you tackle that?
It really is step away from it for a while and just stew on it. Like, I did that with, I've done that with a few outfits. One being primarily, I did Baby Doll from Sucker Punch. And that was when I realized I hate making schoolgirl outfits. They are very boring.
Oh, wait, you don't like pleats?
No. Like, even though like I have a foot on my machine that does it for me, so I don't have to do like all the measuring and stuff by hand. Like, I just change the setting on the foot and it goes, do you want 1-inch pleats? And I'm like, heck yeah, and it just does it for me. They're super boring to make. And I'm like, I will never in my life make another schoolgirl outfit unless I absolutely have to. The other one was what I'm actually working on right now, and I'm about to return to it this summer, is I'm doing Lotus from Warframe. And I ran into snags with the 3D model for her armor because I was going to 3D print and then cast them. And then I was having some technical issues with the bodysuit, and I hadn't bought a serger yet, and like sewing stretch fabrics without a serger is really annoying. So I own one now. But like I was running into a lot of problems with it, and I had to step away from it and reevaluate how I was going to work on it, what I was going to do. I contacted a couple people who could help me and be like, hey, I need a little bit of help on this costume. What do you think I should do? And even contacted one of my friends, the one in College Station I talked about, to help me with 3D model and see where I picked the snag up at and how to get over it. So hopefully I can come back, and I've kind of got this renewed vigor to start working on it again this summer. So really a lot of it is just like with any art form, step back, take some time, reevaluate how you're approaching it, and then try again.
All right, so the last question for you. It's very important. If you were to be introduced onto the DreamHack stage as a judge with a theme song like they do in WWE,
Oh my God.
what would you want your theme song to be?
That's really good. That's a hard one.
I know. This is like a life-changing decision right here. This defines who you are. Do you want to start with a genre?
So I would kind of want to say like Sono Chino Sodome from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like season 1.
Okay.
Like, oh my God. So little known fact, me and my husband, when we got married, we danced to a normal song for our first dance. But after that song ended, it kicked into the first opening from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and we danced to that. We did like this sick tango to that song. And I was like, you guys thought I wasn't going to do this, didn't you? So like, man, bring it full circle. Introduce me onto the stage with that song. Like, I'll even JoJo pose and everything. It'll be great.
All right. I'm glad we have character-defining intro song for you. Do you want to let people know, if they want to find out more about you, see your cosplay, everything, where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on primarily Twitter and Instagram. That's where I do most of my posting. I am also on Facebook and Twitch. You can find me by looking up Ayriath, which is Ayriath. And Twitter is a lot of ramblings, and Instagram is, I upload to my Instagram stories like almost every single day, especially when I'm working on a new costume. All my costume progress goes up there. And I do also have a Patreon, but it is free, and I use that feed to upload all my tutorials and walkthroughs for everything I make. So if you're ever like confused on how to make something, you can just go find me there, and like the whole feed is free to view. And like for the costume I'm wearing this weekend, I made a massive harness with like these 9 tails that splay out around me. I did a walkthrough and a write-up on how I made that and uploaded it there, so people can go make their own 9 tails. And it's pretty intense. So you can find me across pretty much all social media.
All right. Well, that sounds like an amazing resource. Thank you for sitting and talking with Cyber City Media.
No problem.
It's been great hearing your story, and enjoy the rest of DreamHack.
Thanks.